Caxton has a brand new content destination for all the newest, best, trendiest, most desirable and exciting products, places and people in South Africa. It's called Introducing SA. Introducing SA is the new age of marketing, and it's your all-in-one marketing and branding solution with a multi-network media platform delivering print, digital, social media, out-of-home, sampling, consumer surveys and opinions, and it also offers eventing and influencer amplification.
Introducing SA is a very innovative new way of doing digital. I think we are very future thinking.
We bring you the latest, trendiest must-haves across South Africa.
Consumers now prefer discovering new brands in the safety of their own homes. Introducing SA is an omnichannel network that connects brands to consumers, providing a local, safe sampling option.
Every campaign we do is bespoke. Content is created specifically according to our brand's needs.
Conceptualized during the hard lockdown, Introducing SA has a lot to offer marketers who engaged with the urban South African shopper. Due to the pandemic, consumers are minimizing their time in store, sticking to shopping lists or buying online, making sampling trickier than ever before. The power of Caxton's distribution and reach enables brands to be delivered safely into the homes and hands of key target audiences. Wrapped and sealed for delivery, there is no wastage and no unsold returns, making Introducing SA a superior sampling mechanism.
I have a monthly editorial page that features in 21 different local newspapers with a print order of over 800,000. The most coveted spot on the page is the editor's choice block, where I review all the latest, coolest, in my opinion, must-haves.
Our wow factor is the fact that we focus on trending content. Things that are now, things that are new, things that are happening and things that are exciting.
Marketers can leverage the power of the Caxton Group, either aiming to reach a mass audience or to target specific interests, income groups or geographical areas. Dejane Poyle, Head of Retail Marketing and Innovation, knows that staying relevant is not just about providing good content. It's about understanding the changing needs of readers, shoppers, and advertisers alike. Conceptualized during the hard lockdown, Introducing SA has a lot to offer marketers who need to engage with the urban SA shopper.
We are the ultimate PR platform.
Hashtag watch this space.
Very good morning, and thank you so much for having us on. My name is Sia Sangweni, back at it again with another edition of our Future of Media online event. Thank you so much for making the time. Really looking forward to kicking off another interesting conversation. Hopefully you can engage and also learn from our esteemed panelists this morning. Today, we're looking at in-home sampling, connecting brands to consumers during COVID. And my, is it going to be a conversation. If you are in the marketing space, the advertising space, working in the communications industry, you know just how much of a challenge this has been. And hopefully from this morning's conversation, we'll be able to unpack a lot of what has been going on. As usual in the Future of Media series, we look at all of these intriguing conversations, because one thing we know about the times that we're living in is these are very unprecedented times. But on top of that, we are just going to make the most of it. So hopefully through conversations like this, you're able to learn with us. And please let us know exactly what you think. Interact with us in the live chat of the screen right now. You can send your questions and your comments. But this morning in particular, before we kick things off, I'm very excited to say, is proudly brought to you by Introducing SA. You'll find out a lot about Introducing SA as the conversation develops this morning. But before I introduce my speakers as well, my fellow panelists, I just want to broaden the conversation a little more. So let's just dissect what in-home sampling is all about and what it exactly has gone through over the past year and some change. So what we know is many multinationals use a sampling strategy to win market share. But in this pandemic, there's been so much change. Now consumers have minimized time in store and increased online shopping. So consumers now prefer discovering new brands in the safety of their homes. But thankfully, Introducing SA is an omnichannel network that connects brands to consumers, providing a safe in-home sampling solution. So in today's episode of the Future of Media webinar series, in partnership with Introducing SA, we'll be taking a deep dive and a bigger look into the exciting in-home sampling environment and share crucial insights on the evolving wants and needs of consumers in this COVID era. So without wasting any more time, I'd like to introduce my panelists who will be giving us more insight on this conversation this morning. Please welcome Aksa Qureshi, Digital Channel Strategy Manager at Introducing SA. Good morning, Aksa.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. And in case anyone was wondering, yes, I was one of the stars of that video that just played. And yes, I am open to taking autographs later.
Aksa, I heard that Meryl Streep was found shaking in her boots. I'm just saying. Just saying. We also have Dejane Poyle, who's the Head of Retail Marketing and Innovation for Introducing SA. Good morning, Dejane.
Hi to everyone, and thanks so much for spending your time and this opportunity that we can share with you this morning. It's really great to be here.
Fantastic. And last but definitely not least, Jackie Hansen, Research Strategist at Spark Media. Good morning, Jackie.
Morning, Sia. I'm usually the one behind the scenes, so you never saw me earlier.
Look at you now. The spotlight. So thank you so much for being here. Look, ladies, I'm very, very chuffed to get into this conversation. So let's get straight into it. Aksa, just in setting the scene of our conversation this morning, with Introducing SA and in your role, Caxton, for example, has been in the industry for so many years and has been successful in many areas, including print media, online campaigns, and eventing, just to name a few. So tell us why the focus on sample focus now?
Okay, so in light of the recent COVID pandemic, companies, global and local, I think, in the business of providing samples to consumers on behalf of consumer brands and retailers have been largely profitable. This was obviously caused due to a shift in the usual in-store sampling methods and any other sampling methods that happen in events and live. Obviously, safety became quite a big concern, safe sampling, people wanting to be at home, and marketers had to come up with cleverer and innovative solutions. If you think about it, sampling is a win-win method for both the consumer and the marketer or the retailer, because a consumer has the opportunity to sample something for free and a marketer has the opportunity to become a considered purchase when someone goes into the store. Global research shows that over the past year, consumers are now more eager than ever to discover new products in their home. And if you think about it yourself, you are sitting at home, you are online, you're on social media all the time. The ads, you're getting a bunch of ads online, and you want to try these new things, but you don't know how, or you can't try them as easily as you could before. I actually read a study, a very interesting study by SAP News. It's a global website that does clean papers and stuff, that now more than ever, consumers are more likely to try products if they had samples delivered to their homes compared to picking them up in store. Like I said, in-store sampling when last. I mean, over the past few months, we've seen my colleagues and I were just discussing that, I mean, the samplings that we do see are usually the covered, closed products. So it's obviously taken a big hold. You're not going to go into a store these days and swatch a lipstick on your lips like you did without thinking before. So obviously traditional sampling has taken a bit of a halt. You mentioned that Caxton has quite a successful model. And yeah, we've been doing the sampling since magazine days. You know, the model's been there, it's getting perfected. And now it's happening with newspapers. It's an established sampling model using our distribution network, the strength of it, and just our existing logistics system with our local newspapers, and the ability to drive purchase of these samples that go with through curated content campaigns that have editorial influence and credibility. The model allows consumer good companies to distribute their products in the comfort of and safety of a consumer's home. So, a newspaper is coming directly into your home, and with that newspaper, in simple, the sample comes along with it. We already have the logistics system built, so it's not a difficult thing for us to reach the consumer directly in their home. It's a model that Caxton and Spock is incredibly proud of, and it's proven very successful over the years. And it's exactly, it's exactly what we needed to do. We all know that saying that adversity breeds innovation. And I think COVID really just pushed every single company and business to just innovate and try new things. And that's what we did. We innovated the model, and we'll speak a little later more about the innovation. But the global COVID trends, just made us future think and really pushed us to work, to change the global model and adapt it for a local market.
Yeah, you're very spot on with a lot of things there. And there's some points that I want to go back to a little later on in the conversation from some of what you've said. But Dejane, based on what Access mentioned, she mentioned Caxton and being in the industry for so long and in the sampling business. She touched on this briefly, but I want to get your take on it as well. What makes this model so successful?
So let me just give you a little bit of background first. As you said, Caxton has been successful and offered a successful sampling solution for many years. We offered this credible sample carrier via our 12 magazine titles, which went directly into the retail space. But unfortunately, as COVID hit and the hard lockdown regulations came into place, our magazine division sadly closed down. We obviously realized there was a gap in the market at this stage and decided that we needed to innovate and come up with a lifestyle content destination as well as a sampling delivery mechanism. We have a great team on board, very creative, and we took this opportunity to innovate, and we launched Introducing SA. This created a place within our newspapers on page in the local newspaper for this lifestyle destination, as well as we have an online and social media offering. We also obviously realized that Introducing SA could deliver samples directly into the homes where readers could try before they buy. We also can offer a very, very safe environment for advertisers to promote their products within this destination. Both the on-page and the content is positioned safely with relevance to specific categories and interests. So the brands are really safe and not up in printed or published in any area where it's not a safe environment for that brand to be associated with. Then back to your question about our sampling model, Caxton has over 3 million newspapers which we deliver every single week, and we publish 120 newspaper titles. So with this quantity, obviously we have to have a distribution model that can deliver credible deliveries and trusted products into the homes of our readers. Our newspapers obviously come with the trust and credible and reliable information for which our consumers are used to accepting at their gates. So they take these products into their homes with confidence. And we obviously, it's easy for us to get into homes because people do rely and trust our newspapers. There are a number of checks and balances that we also put in place because we have supervisors who double check routes. Routes are plotted and followed and tracked. There's comprehensive delivery reports are submitted each week and audited. Then we also have excluded issues which magazines had, such as pressure testing, where samples would burst because packaging was, things were packed and delivered on top of each other. Our sampling model carries the sample in its original packaging, is loaded onto our newspaper trucks, and then delivered along with the newspapers. We have a distribution team on the trucks who insert the sample along with the newspaper into a plastic bag. These are then handed out to the runners who deliver door to door. We don't do any bulk drops, and that also makes sure that we don't have theft. We have feeder trucks that then also deliver along the route, topping up the sample deliveries to the trucks. Because of this fact that we don't pre-insert the samples, we don't have the pressure issues where the samples burst, etc. We also save on the packaging, the wastage, which we would have to have extra boxing and extra packaging previously. So we cut out a number of issues, and we also streamline the logistics so that we don't have many shrinkage points where products could be stolen because they're not handled that often. Then our editorial teams are also on board with our model, which we're really, really proud of, because they send journalists and photographers out, which actually add great value to our clients, because they capture the deliveries and the readers actually accepting and receiving their samples in newspapers. And we get great feedback from these journalists, because readers, you'll be surprised, are so excited to actually pose with the newspaper and their sample. It creates a lot of talkability, because the editors will then publish pictures in the following week in the relevant newspaper, and everyone talks about it, and it's great PR for our clients, and it really creates introduction into the homes with the sample. And then because we have a smart targeting system, which Jackie will address later, there's minimal wastage. Every single sample that we receive from a client is delivered to a consumer. There's no returns of unsold copies as per the magazine cover mount model, where magazines that weren't sold were returned to a warehouse. In other words, those samples did not get into a consumer's hand. Every single sample does get into a consumer hand, as well as the samples are not exposed in the retail environment on shelf for long periods of time, which also often resulted in theft. So we really are set up to do safe sampling. And as AXA said, we're really proud of what we've achieved via this model.
Fantastic stuff. So Jackie, I want to understand more, and let's look at it in a very practical way. I'm a client wanting to reach a very specific target market or audience. How does Introducing SA deliver solution just for me?
Okay, so Sia, the first thing we look at is the quantity of the sample that a client wants, and that determines whether we do a mass sample or we go the more premium route. At the moment, we're only offering mass sampling, which is your bigger sample sizes from about 5,000 samples to 500,000 samples. The premium offer is going to be launching soon, and I think AXA and her team have worked very hard to get that up and running. But with the samples between about 5,000 to 500,000, the first thing we really look at is, what is your objective in the campaign? And based on that, we then determine where those samples need to go. So it's a very collaborative process with the clients. Then, once we know the quantity, we then sort of dig deep into the audience and who you're trying to reach as well. So from Dejane mentioned that smart targeting approach, what we do is we have a look at where we can ensure that sample gets delivered. We know that it's extremely expensive for brands to actually produce the sample itself. So it's very critical for us as your distributors to ensure that sample gets into the right homes in the right hands. And to do that, we adopt this more smart targeting approach. The smart targeting itself also has many ways that we can look at it, and often it's a mixture of different approaches. That we can look at a brand who has a specific objective, and then we meet that objective. We can also, some of our brands have specific profiles of people that they'd like to reach, and so then we look at that profile and match the areas where we have papers that are reaching that same target audience. And we can match it based on geography, demography, and even sometimes psychographic characteristics. And then in addition to that, we at Caxton's always had a history of investing heavily into research. And we have an existing rich database that we can use to pull profiles. And this can be, like you said, you've got a very sort of more niche or targeted audience. We can then go either from a very wide to a very targeted approach. So we can look at things like I think the most common brief that ever comes to us, or has come to us over the last 18 months, has been, please, I need to get my samples to Alice in 5 to 7 areas. So that's like a very mass, broad target audience, but we can go much more specific in the mass space as well, to like moms in 4 ways. And that's probably about as tight as we can define it in a mass situation. I know AXA's got a whole lot of stuff that she's put together for a more targeted approach if you need a very niche target from that side. So that's kind of how we work with clients, and we really do hold their hands through this process.
Jackie, I think then you've answered a listener question or an audience member question that we've received from Depana, who asked, are we able to do targeted sampling if we are trying to reach a specific consumer? So that's exactly.
Yeah, we do what we call it, and it's very interesting because this whole digital obsession has led to people thinking you can only target in the digital space, and you can target physically. And through our local newspapers, we're able to do that smart targeting. So it's not as niche, it's not one-to-one in the mass space when you're doing that physical. That's something that AXA is going to be bringing, and I think a lot of the digital guys will be very excited about that offer. But we can do that, and we can do very small samples. We've had samples last, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, where we literally had, the guys had 5,000 samples that they wanted to get out. So are you just going to stand at a robot and give it to whoever, or can you take those 5,000 samples? We can then identify where the people are that are most likely to engage with that sample and buy and purchase thereafter, and then really just go there. So it's very smart targeting.
So Jackie, what I'm also hearing you say is you can be so specific that I could create a campaign with you guys where we follow where my ex is, just so that I can like have pictures of me right now, just to show them how successful and happy I am without them. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, basically. And I think that's why Dejana was saying, you know, our editorial staff do go out and take photographs of the guys with their samples and after they've delivered. And they're absolutely passionate about it.
That I'm out with the old and happier now. Look, back to business though. AXA, I know you do not have a crystal ball in front of you. This is the golden question to ask, but the way you look at things and the way you're seeing the world shape and evolve, more people are getting vaccinated. Do you think in-home sampling will continue into the future, or is it merely a trend for now with current restrictions?
Yeah, who says I don't have a crystal ball? Okay, but to answer your question, I think that in-home sampling will definitely continue. If you look at the way things are going now, if you think about it, COVID has sort of brought upon this hygienic reckoning into people. We always at the back of our mind thinking of safe sampling or safety and hygiene and just protecting ourselves. So the distribution models, the COVID pandemic is forcing businesses to change their ways of distributing samples. And by the time everything kind of subsides, there'll be a new normal, and people are going to be very comfortable with in-home sampling and kind of expect it, if you know what I mean. I think more companies, Caxton would possibly be the first to try this in-home sampling thing, and other people would join, and it would become a very normal, common thing. So I don't think it'll die out. I think it's just going to get bigger. In saying that, I also don't think that traditional sampling, for example, in-store, will die out. I think they'll work very nicely together, and each consumer will have their preferences, but it's going to change and continually adapt, because as humans, we also continuously adapt.
Got it. Dejane, AXA mentioned the word safe, and right now, safety has never been more important. And especially, so let's look at it in the context of safe sampling. Can you elaborate more on that and what that exactly means in the Introducing SA context?
Sure. So safe sampling is threefold for us. The actual safety of the product, which is delivered directly into our distribution depots. Products are scanned in and counted on delivery into highly secured areas that have cameras and minimal access by various members of staff. The client is also notified every single step of the way. Secondly, the COVID protocols and compliances are in place with the fogging of our trucks, prior to delivery as well as post-delivery. Masks are worn, sanitizing is done. So we cover all those compliances and make sure that our samples are safe to handle. There's also minimal handling of the samples at any stage. And then thirdly, and possibly most importantly, the return on investment for our clients. So we honestly deliver one sample per household, no multiple sample handouts to consumers as per traffic light and taxi rank promotions. There are no handouts of multiple samples just randomly on the street. We go directly into the home and to a targeted consumer. As Jackie has mentioned, we can really target and make sure that your sample gets to the correct consumer. So with that minimal wastage, shrinkage, and the single sample delivery to our consumers and readers, we really feel that we are offering a safe and sure return to our clients.
Awesome. And then Jackie, once a campaign has been completed, let's get to the nuts and bolts of evaluating that and analyzing it. So what are the metrics that are used in in-home sampling, and how do you track and analyze if a campaign was successful or not?
So from our side, as the distributors, the measure is physical distribution. Did we deliver the samples to the people we said we would deliver? And so that's very key for us. We're very fortunate that we already have that distribution system with our local newspapers. So all the papers that we deliver samples in are already audited by the ABC, or the Audit Bureau of Circulation. So they have audited distribution. They all are certified. They have the verified free distribution certificates from that. And we've had that for years. That's kind of stock standard. Then in addition to that, we also, most of our distribution is done by permanent staff or permanent contractors in some areas. So the guys are going to set routes. It's the same people. It's not cut and, this week we hear that, then they're very set routes in terms of how we distribute. So that makes it very easy for us then to measure whether those samples were distributed. As Dejane said, each truck has got a number of staff members on it. They've got the driver, obviously, but they also have a supervisor. Now, the supervisor puts in specific reports about how many newspapers are actually delivered to different places. So we know, our distribution people know exactly how many papers were delivered and where they were delivered. And so therefore, we know where the samples have gone. But we don't just want to take our word for it. And that's where that mystery photographer comes in. So it's yes, it helps with the editorial because we can show what's happening, but it also just gives that extra layer of verification, because the drivers in the trucks don't know who these photographers are and don't know whether they're going to be photographed or not. So they go out during the distribution period and actually take photographs of the people getting their samples and having their samples. And then the last loop that kind of is really, really quite exciting for us is the actual engagement with the readers. And here we've got, it used to be letters to the editors, now it's emails to some, for the older ones of us, and up on the social posts where people are actually taking pictures of them with the sample and posting it on their social media pages. And that's very exciting because there we're actually seeing the loop complete. But I think the ultimate measure of success is obviously always going to be, are the tills ringing? And that's something that we don't really have much control of. We just have to make sure that we get that sample delivered to the homes that we said we were going to.
Another reminder, if you are watching and you have any questions for our panelists, please do pop them through in the live chat. I think let's actually go to a few listener or audience member questions. There are quite a few rolling in here, and I'll leave it very open-ended to any of you who would like to respond to it. Here's a question from Julie. Julie would like to know, with the sampling, how do you reach consumers who live in an estate or complex type dwelling? Anyone want to take that on?
Okay, so that's the one thing that we don't do. You remember Dejane said we look at one sample to one home. So we know that our newspapers get into those complexes because we deliver them there. But the problem with those bulk drops is that if you have a stack of newspapers sitting outside, even at the security, it sits there for a certain period of time. It could be a day, it could be half a day. And your samples are then sitting there, and that's a point for shrinkage. So you'll always see when we do put our sampling packages together, that it really is only available to single home dwellings. If you've got a complex where a lot of complexes do allow us in and deliver to each individual residence, then we will be doing a sample to that home. But we felt that the risk of that sample, or maybe even 50 samples sitting in the newspapers for that period of time is quite a risk from a theft perspective. That answer your questions, yeah?
Awesome. A bit of a technical question here from Jen. Jen would like to know, please advise what is the maximum size or weight of sample liquid or powder?
So I can answer that. So we don't have a specific size. We take each sample as it comes to us and we assess it, and then we will assess whether we can deliver it or not. Something to remember is that in many cases, it goes into a post box, so we should be able to deliver it into a post box. So if it's a 5 kilogram bag of charcoal, that would possibly be an issue. From a distribution point of view, nothing is impossible, and we really do try to find a solution for everything. But the main thing being that the sample should be able to fit into a post box or rolled up into a newspaper and put through a gate.
All right.
But when AXA talks to smart sampling, there are other options as well when it comes to really big samples.
A question from Dibogo, who's watching. They'd like to know, does sampling have to be a product, or could it be a voucher, for example, for a one-day training course?
I'll take this one. So yeah, definitely. Sampling can be a product, a service, a training course. It's very easy for us, especially now when we're looking at the premium sampling model, which we'll touch on just now, to do things like vouchers and, emailable things or registration sort of things. So it does not have to be a physical, tangible product. It can actually be something that can be emailed, that can be registered on. Yeah, definitely.
All right. A question from Rams. They'd like to know, is there any way we can get feedback, or is there a reporting system that is used to get feedback from consumers?
So I'll do this one. With mass sampling, obviously we have the ability to ask consumers for feedback using, the power of words. We can ask them to let us know if they got it, how they felt about it. But with the premium sampling model, we are actually going to do a feedback sort of system where when a consumer gets the sample, they have to come back online, answer a few questions, and then we provide feedback in insightful ways. So it's not just raw data. If client wants that, I'm happy to supply it, but it's feedback in insightful ways to the client. Nothing is impossible. We often ask people, once they get a sample, to post it online with a hashtag. And we have tracking mechanisms and social listening tools to help us see who actually did that. We can also refine the sample in that sense. So for people who don't share and don't really communicate or give feedback, we have the ability to kind of take them off the sample list and add more people who will give valuable feedback and insights to clients. So everything is very measurable and very tracked. I worked in the analytics side of things, and I'm very, very thorough with this stuff. So yeah, definitely ask me anything. I dare you.
Can I add something to that? Because we have that omnichannel and we can publish content on page in the newspaper that goes along with the sample, we can actually do a call to action on page or a physical sticker or whatever on the sample to readers, to if the brand wants them to interact with the mass sampling. So we can do the call to action like that, saying, reply to us and you could win, whatever that call to action is. So there are a lot of ways that we can get readers to interact, even just via the mass sampling model.
A lot of great questions still coming in, and I love the engagement. So please carry on doing so. If you have any specific questions you'd like answered, by popping them in our live chat. Depana would like to know, would Also, they'd also like to understand the delivery process. Are the samples delivered with the newspaper? Would the delivery man provide more information on the sample, or is it just a drop-off?
It is a delivery with the newspaper. So it's folded into the newspaper, into a bag, and that is delivered to the door, the gate, the post box. So the delivery man doesn't have interaction with the reader per se. Some consumers are actually waiting at their gates for the newspapers, but that's just, you know, kind of people that are very enthusiastic to get the newspaper. So, and there are people like that. There are people, because that's when our journalists capture them receiving their newspaper, and they're really excited to pose with the newspaper and sample to show what they got. And then whoever down the road or in a different area didn't get a sample, you know, we get feedback saying, why didn't we get a sample? When are we getting a sample in this area? So there's a lot of interaction there.
Fantastic. Bridget would like to know, in a case where someone is a marketing manager for an SA brand, how do we get access to your stats or readership on your various publications? I know there are many, she says.
That's very easy. They just need to contact us at Spark Media. So Introducing SA is a Caxton product. Spark Media is our national sales house. So you can contact us, and we are, our readership is, we've got a massive survey, and it is freely available to our clients and customers. So it's just a matter of getting hold of us.
Awesome.
And then,
another question.
Sorry, just to add on to that, Sia, we also, when we do provide proposals or campaign suggestions to clients, we always put in projected metrics or estimations on how many people you will reach in the campaign. So there's also that we can do for you.
All right. I do want to get into the premium sampling that we alluded to a little earlier. So, Axa, earlier, Jackie mentioned that Caxton has two types of sampling, mass and premium. So can you please take us through that premium sampling that Introducing SA are going to be launching?
Oh, I've been waiting and not waiting for this question because I'm not allowed to give away too much. It's in the phase of being launched. So I'm going to try and not get too excited and carried away. But I think basically you've all heard about this print successful sampling model, and we've taken the main characteristics of that model and adapted it into an online space, but made it a lot more smarter. When I say smart, we can literally do anything with this model. It was a natural progression, if you think about it, regardless of COVID. And I'm a foodie, so the best way to explain it is we had all the ingredients for this cake, and we were putting it together, and now this cake is in the oven, and we are waiting for it to come out. And I think everyone else hopefully is excited as we are. This new model is kind of, it's reaching a different target market, a lot more niche with way more spending and buying power. So we're talking about affluent market who is segmented. So we have the ability to reach, for example, someone who is interested, someone between age over 40, just say, who's interested in anti-aging products, interested in the beauty category. So it becomes quite a nice niche thing with zero wastage, reaching people who are very, very likely to buy your product because they have tried it.
I'm going to try to just push you a little more. Is that the best you can do? Is that as much as you can give us?
I feel like, I also do not want to get fired after
yes,
this.
let's try.
But let me see what I can do. I like you, Sia, so I'll tell you, and I love everyone in the audience. So I think what makes this very premium is how specific and we can get with our audiences. Obviously, specific samples are more small samples, but that means you're reaching clients or consumers with zero wastage. I mean, if you think about big brands in the world, for example, Merck, let's take Merck or Audi as an example. They advertise to people who can afford it. Sending an ad for Merck to like a 6-year-old child is not going to really make a difference. You'd rather the ad go to someone who's really looking for your product. We send samples to consumers who've opted in. So right now we will launch very soon, and everyone is free to opt into this model to see how it works. You basically opt in, and when I say opt in, it's a person looking for products in this category. So when you opt in, we ask you a series of questions to discover who you are as a person. Who is Sia? What does he like? How old is he? Where does he live? And that gives us a picture of who you are and what kind of samples to send to you, because we would know that you're looking for samples. So if Coca-Cola or Ceres comes to us and says, we want people who like to drink fizzy drinks or who like sugary drinks, we know that Sia is someone who's interested in this sort of thing. And by sending it to him, we're not wasting the product on someone who potentially won't buy it. We also are using the influence and editorial endorsement and credibility that we already have. You know, it takes a long time to build respect and influence and credibility. And, you know, influencer is such a hot topic and such a hot term used these days. And we definitely classify Introducing SA as an influencer to a mass audience. Our consumers, if you think about it, they trusting and letting a newspaper come into their house, essentially allowing us to give them an opinion or endorse something to them. They're listening to us. They want to know what we're saying. They want to know what we're promoting, and they want to buy what we're selling. And for me, because I come from the analytical side, I think insights in proper ways. So once the sample goes out, you can ask questions like, would you buy it? Would you recommend it to a friend? What would you change about it? Are you happy with the price point? You have the ability to ask very in-depth questions or basic questions, but still get insightful answers. And the fact that these answers can help us continuously change and adapt our model and make it better. So it's kind of like artificial intelligence, where you're taking information and bettering it. Nothing's written in stone. We have the ability to quickly change it based on what consumers are feeding us back with. So I'm going to stop there.
I've already pushed you enough, so don't shoot the messenger. Thank you, Christy, for Krista, for your question, because I'll just use you here. Krista wants to know, what is the timeline of this premium launch and when will it be in market?
Sure. Thank you for asking that question, Krista. I was actually hoping someone would. I'm very excited to share that. That's the one thing. Dejane, please don't let me go because of this. But basically, I think that, I know, at the moment, there's a two-phased approach to this. The first stage is basically audience capture. We obviously have already captured our print audience onto this online system. So using our newsletters and those sort of things to build that audience. The next step is getting the rest of the audience who don't know about this online. So in the next 2 months, in the next month, we will already start, putting the ads out. People can click, join this thing. There will be terms and conditions based on locations and those sort of things. But the first set of samples will be going out in 2022, Jan, Feb. I can't give that specific thing ahead, but please watch the space. In the next month, the ads are definitely going live. The database is going live. Segmentation will start happening. So by next year, the premium sampling model will 100% be ready to go.
Fantastic. So just in wrapping up, I want to look at a few more audience questions before we officially wrap up today's session. Amanda would like to know, what are the restrictions on sampling items? For example, like chocolate melts, for example.
I can take that. So obviously there are government restrictions on medications and dangerous substances, for instance, strong household cleaning, abrasive materials, etc. Those are standard things that we cannot sample, as if there's any danger to a consumer who might pick it up by mistake. But further, there really are no constraints other than we need to make sure that we're not sampling chocolate in the middle of December. If you wanted to sample chocolate, we would obviously suggest go in the winter months and possibly don't ever do KZN. And we did have issues like that with the magazines previously, so that hasn't changed. It obviously just depends on the product, specifically what the attributes of that product are. But there are no restrictions other than government restrictions and specific specifications that are laid down by specific products.
Thanks for that. Here's another question from Chandra. Chandra would like to know, do you need to take specific advertising in the local newspaper to qualify for the ability to sample?
No, that's the beauty of this innovation. And I think that's what last year taught us, is that it's not a one size fits all, and that there are multiple touch points and you don't have to take them all. So in addition to sampling, Dejane and the video showed you, we've got an online content space, we've got an on-page content space, we've got social, we've even moving into eventing next year, probably towards the end of next year, depending on COVID. And we've also got the opportunity to do out of home through our truck branding and runners, but you don't have to, you can do a sample just by itself. We just encourage brands to take some space in the newspaper, whether it's a content campaign or a half-page ad, because it just anchors the sample. So you're getting the sample and then you're getting some sort of engagement with that brand. And that really, we've seen that work quite well with some of our brands, but we're not, if you just want us to get the sample out, we can just put the sample in. There's no need to advertise. It's really a pick and choose. The only other one restriction that we do have is if we do ever do a digital or on-site campaign, that we then do make sure that there's enough social ads to boost audiences. And I think that's sort of a standard thing, but you can really pick and choose amongst all the different. AXA had a lovely thing about it. It's almost like a box of chocolates. You don't have to eat them all. You can pick and choose your favorites. And we will work with you to make sure that if your objective is a certain objective, that you use the right touch points in the right way to get your objective met.
Thanks, Jackie. Now I'll have Forrest Gump stuck in my head with that bottle. A question from Rams. Rams just wants to clarify. So there's no alcohol or tobacco restrictions with this?
There obviously are. Those are government laws. You cannot supply alcohol to under 18s. So obviously alcohol, unfortunately, is not allowed. And cigarettes, we know, come with their whole own protocols and a very stringent set of rules. So as per laid down by government, we cannot distribute products in those categories.
And I don't want to gild the lily here, but again, just for further and finer clarification, what about non-product related items, for example, calendars or magnets or other promotional goods?
Any of those are possibilities. As we said, vouchers are possible. So if you have a calendar that's branded to a product, great. A recipe book for a food product would be great. You know, you could send a sample and or just a recipe book promoting the use of that specific brand or that specific product. So yes, any of those are available. A pen, a pencil, anything that's branded that is obviously acceptable within the laws.
Thank you so much, ladies. You guys did a very good job in fielding all of those questions. Before we officially wrap up, I'd like to just go down the line with each of you. Your final comments on this, perhaps drop an email address where people can reach you on, and any last word that you'd like to leave our audience with. Jackie, do you want to start?
Yes, I think my final word for the audience is, you know, during COVID, we saw massive increases in in-home media consumption, and most people just assume that's your digital and social and TV spaces, but local newspapers are consumed in the home, and we've seen tremendous uptake and continuing uptake of local newspapers. So don't just dismiss print, look at all in-home media consumption.
Thanks. Dejane, your final word today?
Thank you. So I feel that we've really achieved a great deal with this Introducing SA by being able to offer so many touch points. And to me, that is the greatest asset to be able to offer our advertisers, because you can actually pick and choose as per the chocolate box and make a campaign specific. So we can really tailor make and deliver to specific brands and to specific products to reach the right people across all the various touch points that we offer. So that's what makes me really excited about this, that it's not one size fits all. It can really be tailor made.
Awesome. And then AXA, you'll have the final word, your final thoughts on today's conversation and maybe an email address where people can reach you guys.
Sure. So I'm going to be my very millennial self and be like, hashtag watch this space. But no, I think that with with this new model and just our existing model, we've established so much credibility and trust. And I definitely think that marketers should really consider the idea of sampling. And also, if not sampling, the campaign side of things, we do bespoke campaigns that are highly measurable, very objective based, with lots of statistics involved. So yeah, we definitely can do whatever you need. We can be everything to everyone. Don't be fooled. In terms of email addresses, well, at Spark Media, I'm not sure if it's going to come up, but our salesperson to contact is Shivani M at caxton.co.za.
Great.
And then myself, if anyone has any specific digital questions, Aksa at caxton.co.za, AQSA. So any questions about digital campaigns, sampling, premium sampling, I'm happy to answer or direct you to the correct person who will help you.
Fantastic. Ladies, thank you so much for sharing your insights, your thoughts on this. You've been a wealth of knowledge this morning. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Dejane Poyle, Head of Retail Marketing and Innovation at Introducing SA, Aksa Qureshi, Digital Channel Strategy Manager at Introducing SA, and Jackie Hansen, Research Strategist at Spark Media. Really, really enjoyed our conversation this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much.
Fantastic. And thank you for joining us wherever you've been watching us from. It's been an absolute pleasure having you for another Future of Media event. This morning, we looked at in-home sampling, connecting brands to consumers during COVID. If you have any questions, if you want to have any more information on this and so many others in this series, please visit the Arena Events website where you can also search under Future of Media. Until next time, my name is Sia Sangweni. Thank you very much and have a great rest of your day.